All right. Well, good morning. It's Friday, August 9th, and I wanted to spend just a few minutes finishing up the discussion that we were having regarding our biblical worldview. So, for those of you who are using Canvas, I would encourage you to let this film kind of play in the background and listen along as you go through and take notes from the slides. Yesterday, we finished up just talking about we talked about a biblical worldview, the summary of the scriptures, what those different what the message of the scriptures and those summary points, creation, fall, redemption, what those things should lead us to believe or should lead us to think um, as a result of the logic that we've been given as we've been created in God's image, the values that those things should push us to have. So now we're going to pick up with I think it's the sixth slide under Christian worldview, and we're just kind of recapping what is man's purpose. We're recapping what is man's purpose. Well, as we as we look to the scriptures to teach us our philosophy, one of the big questions in philosophy is who is man, what's his purpose, what's he supposed to be doing, and a biblical worldview answers those philosophical questions for us. Um, Ultimately, we know that man's purpose is to glorify God as we do what God wants us to do. He created us for His glory. So He's made us to bring His name glory. He made us out of His good pleasure, and He wants us to do things. Well, what are the things that He wants us to do? Well, I think generally we could summarize those into four overall parts or four overall things. Man's job, according to Genesis 1:28, which is known as the creation mandate, is to fill the earth, to grow, to develop, to improve. The Bible says, "Be fruitful." So he's supposed to grow, to improve, to produce. He's supposed to multiply. That is, he's supposed to grow in population. And he's supposed to replenish the earth. That is, spread out through the earth. That is not a requirement that man has to always live away from everybody else. God created us to be social beings, and from the very beginnings in Genesis, we see how men began to build cities. They began to build communities and places where lots of people could live in one area. We're supposed to subdue the earth. That is, take control over it. Go out there, claim it. Exercise dominion. That is to harness it, to figure out ways to use it. And one of the things that I think is so neat that points to the fact that God created the earth to be our home is that we can look at creation and we see all kinds of energy. We see all kinds of resources. We see all kinds of products that we can use as we exercise dominion over the earth. Notice what he tells us to exercise dominion over. He tells us to exercise dominion the animals, over the animals and specific geographies, the sea, the fowl of the air, over every living thing that moveth upon the earth. So we're called to exercise dominion over them. In other words, they are put here for our use, not for our abuse, but for our use. Nowhere in Scripture, if God gives you this beautiful gift, if He gives you this home, if He gives you all of these things and says, go subdue it, that doesn't mean go out there and abuse it and destroy it. It means subdue it, exercise dominion over it, and accomplish things with it. If you and I can figure out better ways to be stewards of this gift that He's given us, I believe from a biblical viewpoint we should. We should figure those things out. However, it's very important to remember from a biblical worldview that man is to exercise dominion over the earth. The man is not to become the servant of creation. He's supposed to use this home that he's been given. So notice man's job. By the way, notice when God blessed them here, He didn't say everybody has to be a preacher because preachers are really special to me. He said, go subdue the earth. You can accomplish your created purpose as you become architects, engineers, doctors, secretaries, plumbers, housemakers. You are a part of a society and civilization that's working to subdue the earth. And God is glorified as you do what He told you to do. And He's told us to subdue the earth, to figure out ways to harvest petroleum, or to work in nuclear energy, or whatever it may be. He's told us to go out there to solve it, subdue it. Notice this beautiful thing too about this point. Notice how neat it is that God created an earth that we can discover. There's science here, and He's given us an intellect to be able to learn of it so that we can go out and subdue the earth. Okay, so notice, answer one, what does God want us to do? Number one, He's given us a job, and that's to subdue the earth, exercise dominion over it, produce, be fruitful, use His creation for produce, and look at this that He's called us to do. Notice He's not called us to laziness. He's not called us to sit back. And by the way, if you ever find yourself wondering, why do I have to learn algebra? Why do I have to learn world history? Ultimately, from a biblical worldview, you're learning these things so that you are mentally equipped to go out and to subdue. Because that's our job. That's what we're made to do. We're made to subdue. All right, let's take a look at the next slide. Continuing on with what is, oh, I'm sorry. Somehow I've got two of this slide. One of them is just underlined a little better, and but let's look at the next one. Oh, having a little error with that slide too, being able to figure that out. All right, but let's look at these things. We've got answer two. God has also given us a moral code. God's given us a moral code, and that moral code was especially at first issued to the Israelites. And some would say, well, we're Gentiles, we're in a new covenant. But Jesus Himself said, when He was asked, somebody said, what's the greatest commandment? He said, the greatest commandment is this. The greatest commandment is to love the Lord your God with everything that you have, love Him supremely, and to love people as you love yourselves. So that's our moral code. That should drive the morality that we have. We should do to other people the things that we would want done to ourselves. We should love God first. He's the priority. Figure out ways to conform our lives to serving Him and loving Him. But then we should also love people. So as we go out there to subdue the earth, notice we've not been given any authority to subdue people. No, our moral code is to love people as we subdue the earth. By the way, what greater ways can man love people as he makes their lives easier, as he helps work us back toward the ease of life in the way God originally made things. So what I'm saying is, you can go out there, be an engineer, be an architect, be a medical professional, be a nurse, be a housewife, be an accountant. You can go out there and do those things, and as you do them, remember your moral code is to love people. Figure out ways to do them better so that you can love on people. Figure out ways to do them better so that you can glorify God with the things that you're doing. So notice that man's moral code to love God, love people. Why do you learn algebra? So you can go out there and subdue the earth, and as you're doing so, you can figure out ways to honor the Lord with what you're doing and to make life easier for His people. Think about it. I referenced yesterday people figuring out how to use valves from pig hearts in human beings. Think about the doctors that are figuring out chemotherapy and all kinds of things like that. They're subduing the earth and they're loving people. Notice that's what we're called to do. If you want to be a teacher, go out there, get good at it. Get good at it. Keep growing in it so that you can love people and help people learn and continue this process. Now notice also, man has been created with a social purpose. Our social purpose, we're to walk with God, have this relationship with God, but then also we're to fellowship with people. God looked down at man and he said it's not good for him to be alone. Let me bring a solution to that problem. I'm going to give him a wife, and through his wife they're going to have babies, and through a family they're going to have bigger families, and through distant families they're going to have friends, and through all of this, man is created to be a social being. First of all, our first priority is to have a growing relationship with the Lord. So notice that. Now notice also this fourth job. As a result of Jesus Christ coming, this redemptive purpose, according to Romans 10:13, where we should be calling on the name of the Lord to be saved, and then after that, Matthew 28:19, we should be going into all the world, making disciples of all nations, teaching them this redemptive message of Christ. So notice these things. Look, you were created with a purpose, and our God has said you should glorify Him by doing these four things. And these four things that you're called to do are these. These four things that you're called to do are, number one, to subdue the earth, to fill it, to be productive. Number two, to love God and love people. Number three, to live in a relationship with God, to live in a relationship with people. And number four, to advance the message of His redemption. This biblical worldview really shapes the way we think of ourselves, and it really shapes the way that we live. These are the things that you should be doing, and I'm excited to have the opportunity to share them with you. All right, let's look at this just very quickly. You don't have to write all of this down, and still I've got this one thing that keeps haunting me at the bottom of these slides. I need to fix it. What is man's relationship to the earth and animal life? I want you to notice this. Notice, man is to manage and use the earth. We are not servants of the earth. We are not the parasites on earth. PETA would like for us to think those things. Radical environmentalists would like for us to think those things. But no, the earth is made for the man. Man is not made for the earth. You remember that. It shapes our morality. It shapes the way we make decisions. Again, I remind you of man's ultimate job, how we're to be fruitful, multiply, replenish the earth, subdue it, have dominion over it. All right, let's look at this next slide. Okay, a biblical worldview. What is history? What is history? History. Answer one. History is a linear story. That is, it has a beginning, it's a line. Some people will say, well, history is just a big circle. It just keeps repeating itself. No, from a biblical worldview, it's not. It has a beginning in Genesis. It has an end in Revelation. History is a linear story that tells us about God the hero creating and redeeming His rebellious fallen creation. He's the hero of this history. He's the hero of all time. But notice how it's linear. Now somebody would say, but it does seem like history repeats itself. That's because there are specific patterns. There are patterns in history because of the two chief actors in history and because of their natures. In other words, God and man are behaving. They're acting. And as they act according to their natures. Man is both created in the image of God and fallen. God is holy, loving, redeeming. And because these two are interacting and they're going through history, what you're going to see are the patterns that develop. These patterns that develop. So it does seem at times that history repeats itself. But it's not just one big circle of life, continuum type of evolutionary thought. Instead, it's a line. It had a beginning and it's marching its way to an end. Be ready for its end. Be ready for its end. All right. Notice we talk about some of the parts of plot. I think we talked about that yesterday, about the parts of plot in history. All right, let's take a look at this. What is history? Answer number 2. Oh, I'm sorry. We've kind of talked about this. Answer number 2. It's a linear story. It begins in Genesis. Its chief factors are God and man. The conflict in the plot involves rebellious man, and notice ultimately that the resolution, of course, the climax is the resurrection, his death, burial, and resurrection. You see, my daughter was telling me just last night, she says, Daddy, I'm scared of dying one day. I said, well, baby, it's good for us. It's normal for us to be scared of dying. She said, I'm scared of being alone. I'm scared of dying. And I said, it's normal. Death is our worst enemy. I said, but here's what gives us hope. What gives us hope is that we watched Jesus in history. We watched him die, and we watched him conquer death and experience the resurrection. If he could resurrect himself, then surely he can resurrect us. And so that's why the resurrection is the climax of history. Notice also there's a resolution, and that's going to come about in the tribulation, and then ultimately in the beautiful New Jerusalem. Okay, so we've gone through Christian worldview. Be sure you've got good notes on this. I'm going to try to clean up some of these slides, and so you can read them a little better, because there's some little haunting things that kind of keep coming around. But some little copy and paste things that keep coming around. But be sure that you're getting ready for a quiz on the Christian worldview on Monday, and read the assignments tab here. You'll also notice a test on Tuesday, and your homework for tonight is that chapter review. When you answer that chapter review question, try to do it from memory. If you mess up, go back and check in the book. Don't white your answer out. Just put a single line through it, and then write the correct answer to it. Okay, thank you so much. I've had a great week as we've started this course. Look forward to week 2. Have a good weekend.